I completely agree with the Chair. I would urge you, be enthusiastic, be ambitious, and sort out the posters thing fast, like before the next election. It's environmentally bad. It's a complete, it has a distorting effect. I don't think we ban them entirely. They have a value, absolutely, but a reasonable limit and ensure a level playing field. If we care about our democracy, let's try and ensure some fairness in that space too. And just getting back to the polling station and the polling officers' business, like I think Deputy O'Brien makes a fair point. I don't want to malign the people who have been working and manning our polling stations. That's not my intention. But I do think it is, and I would hope the Commission would agree, that it's a really important function, that the people, the role of presiding over the actual casting of the ballot in each polling station. And I'm curious to understand how the Commission will do a post-election review of what happens in each polling stations, and what are your plans for that? How will that actually work in practice?
Okay, on the posting issue, I don't want to go back over the pros and cons that we went through earlier, except perhaps just to say that the people in favour of posting are in favour of it because they do think it gives an opportunity for new candidates to get their face out into the community, and it does favour incumbents. And I suppose the second point is that it is the only way that some people know that there are elections on. And the chairman mentioned tidy town committees earlier on, and some tidy town committees can be self-regulatory in this regard, and they tell candidates that there are going to be no posters allowed in certain sections.
We should aim for a level playing field, and we shouldn't leave it to tidy town groups to do it.
I absolutely agree, and as I said, all of these issues will be ventilated in our research document, and our recommendation sometime in, I suspect, if it's a real priority, it'll be sometime in the early part of next year. On the post-election review, we're working through at the moment what that might look like. So it will be, at the very least, every member of the Electoral Commission staff will be in polling stations and on the ground and count centres all over the country. The Electoral Commission members said that they'd like to get involved in seeing things.
How many are there?
There's 7.
Okay.
So there will be a whole lot of us in polling stations looking at issues. After that, we will be canvassing, looking for submissions from people on what went well and what didn't go well. And I do think that the experience that individuals have, that particularly with engaging recently with the National Disability Authority, those people who have trouble accessing polling stations, we'd like to hear their experience as well, where that didn't work well or not. But the ambition here is vast, because it is, the administration of the electoral event, from the time where you tried to get yourself on the electoral register and couldn't, to your polling card never arrived and you had difficulty getting a ballot paper, you didn't have ID or whatever it is. We'd like to hear about all of these experiences and we can build up a database of events as they happen and issues that need to be dealt with too. So I'm not sure how widespread the issue that you mentioned earlier on is, but this is the first time that anyone has ever mentioned it to me. But certainly it's something that I'd be keen to ensure that was proper.
Yeah, I just think if there's 7 members of the Commission, with the best will in the world, if they were to get to 5 polling stations, it's still not going to be a whole lot of observation. So I don't think that's sufficient. I think it's wholly insufficient.
It depends on how you select the polling stations as well, but I agree with you. No,
there must be in Dublin Central. There must be 30 polling stations alone, and that's one constituency. There's 49 constituencies, so it's wholly insufficient. And to be relying then on anecdotal, unqualified submissions from the public is also inadequate. wholly inadequate.
Well, from returning officers as well, polling workers, candidates.
That'll help. That'll help.
All of these stakeholders in the process. Every stakeholder in the process will have an opportunity to make a comment in relation to their experience of the electoral event, and I think that's the hope that we'll be able to do something that will again make a difference here, and we should be able to make recommendations for the enhancement of the electoral process in due course.
Will the Commission from this take any action or give consideration to taking any action in terms of establishing a minimum qualification for people working in polling stations and for the instructions and training being provided to them? Or is that something we as a committee need to write to the Commission and request?
Well, it's something we can, certainly if it's an issue, it's certainly something within the scope of our post-electoral review. I mean, dealing with this and arranging the training, etc., the administration of the elections remains with the Custom House and our colleagues in the department. So, but it's not beyond us to make recommendations in relation to this area if it is a very real issue that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, in terms of this activity in this space, is that we do have from time to time independent election observation missions, and that there have been those, particularly from the Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights. I'm just reading their report, which is part of the OSCE, and they have been here from time to time. Now, I'm not suggesting either, Senator, that they can get to every single polling station either, but it is, we have had independent election observation missions in the past. So just to make that point.
Yeah. The other question, I guess, getting back to the register of electors, and I was struck actually by the point you made there, Art, that our population is growing at 2 TDs a year. And it's roughly about 5%, isn't it? The 150,000 of 3 million or so, it's about 5%, the variation to the register of electors. And that 5% that it has varied, is that additions, deletions, or changes? Do you know?
About half and half.
Okay.
So it's about half of new registrations and half are updates of existing registrations.
Okay.
One of the things that makes it a little bit difficult at the moment is we've got 2 different systems in operation across local authorities. So the 4 Dublins are already working on one shared system on voter.ie. And the other 27 have individual setups. So Check the Register as a portal works for all of them, but they each get. Now we have done some work to integrate the process of people moving between local authorities so that 2 local authorities are notified. That was previously quite a manual process where you get in a form and then you do the necessary and then you send it on to the other local authorities. So it's we have done some work to make sure that that's a little bit more automatic and a little bit easier for local authorities to manage and keep track of. So there are significant improvements, but I suppose the big improvement will come when the national system, which we've also provided for under the Electoral Reform Act, is up and running. So that will be an expansion of the existing voter.ie that's operating in Dublin, and all local authorities will come to use that system once it is ready. So the procurement around that is underway at the moment and expected to be finished, I suppose, in 2026, which isn't
after the election. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And of the changes then, because of you've got, let's say, 2 categories of registers, let's say outside of Dublin and the Dublin, do you know of the 150,000 or so changes? How do they split between those 2 categories? Are the majority Dublin or outside of Dublin? If you don't know this, Petra, it's fine.
Yeah, sorry, I will send this information.
Thank you.
We have got reports and figures and so on. We get more regular updates from Check the Register because we are involved in that. But the Dublins tend to do quite well, and a lot of their inputs are through my GovID, which is very helpful. But they introduced the PPSN check as well, so that increased their numbers because it became easier for people to engage.
Okay, thank you.